I would like to say welcome, Earhart Hall family and guests. Today we celebrate 50 years of nurturing and developing the women and men of Purdue University. Thank you, Earhart alums, retirees, residents, Purdue staff, and guests for being part of this very special occasion and celebrating this anniversary with us. My name is Elizabeth Hartley, and I'm the Associate Director of Operations for University Residences. And I served at Earhart Hall. I came in 1995 and stayed till 2005. And I was first the assistant manager, and then I became the hall manager. So I would like to say on behalf of all the staff that are working here today for Earhart, they really worked to get this building looking beautiful. It always looks nice, but it really is looking beautiful today. And to all the dining staff who made that brunch so yummy, we say thank you, and we're glad that you're here. I would like to begin with just a few recognitions of special guests that are in attendance. Some of those you will be hearing from later in the program, but please help me welcome as they stand to be recognized. Jim Allman, Senior Vice President for Business Services. Dr. Beth McCuskey, Associate Vice President for Housing and Food Service. John Sauter, Retired Vice President of Purdue University Residence Housing and Services. Sheila Klinker, Indiana State House Representatives for Lafayette, West Lafayette, and former faculty fellow of Earhart Hall. Dr. Zenefia Evans, the Director of Multicultural Science Programs, and Associate Director of Science Diversity in the College of Science, and also Senior Fac Fellow at Earhart Hall. Susan Bulkley Butler and her guest, Rod Gustafson. Susan is the founder and CEO of the Susan Bulkley Butler Institute for the Development of Women Leaders. Heather Stemp, author of Amelia and Me. Heather is visiting Purdue. She's here from her home in Ontario, Canada, and she's doing research for the sequel to Amelia and Me. Barb Frazee, our Executive Director of Housing and Food Service, University Residences. And Greg Minner, way back there, Director of Dining for Housing and Food Services. Okay, I would like to invite Dr. Zenefia Evans and Sheila up for a couple special recognition of our faculty fellows.
Let's see, what time is it? Good morning. This is one of the busiest weekends on campus. I was telling somebody at a dinner last night, I had dinner with the astronaut Drew Forstall and a couple of people in science, and I was telling them that this week I did not have to buy groceries for home because I'm not going to be there enough to eat. So it is a pleasure to be here and sharing with you today. When I started as faculty fellow many years ago, and I must admit, when I received the letter saying a student had nominated me for a faculty fellow, I was like, I'm not adding anything else to my plate. I ain't doing that. I'm not doing it. And so I did ignore it the first year. I don't know if you knew that story, Elizabeth. So I ignored it the first year. And then the letter came again. I was like, well, maybe this is something I should investigate. And so then I became a faculty fellow here in Earhart. And I started one year, and the next year I ended up as senior faculty fellow. I'm still trying to figure out how Debbie Anderson, who's sitting in the back, kind of finagled me into that one. But that was all Debbie. But today I have the pleasure of honoring some faculty fellows that have been around long before some of you were probably born. And that is Dr. Bill Gorman and Dr. Richard Nelson. Let me tell you a little bit about them both, and then I will call them up. Dr. Gorman is a New York native, and he's very secretive. When I asked him some information to share with me, he said, I graduated from Purdue, I left for 9 years, I came back and started working, and I'm still at Purdue. That was the gist of it. So he's currently serving in the Department of Computer Science, where he has a role in working with graduate students. He's been there so long, he knows everything. His memory his history of the department is absolutely incredible. He remembers that it was a student, and he remembered her name, Patricia Seiler, who was a resident of Earhart and was in one of the math courses he taught when he first started. She asked him to be a faculty fellow. He said yes, and he's never turned away. So the years, we think it was either 74 or 1975 that he started as a faculty fellow, and he's still around. So Bill, if you'll come on up, we have some things for you. And Dick Nelson. Dick Nelson is a native of Brockton, Massachusetts. He's he's the sixth of 8 children. Now, one thing that I didn't know about Dick, Dick was a high school dropout. He dropped out of high school to enroll in the Army because he thought he could travel and see the world. Little did he know he got stuck in Fort Dix, New Jersey for the entire time. So he had to use his experience. So once he got out of the Navy, he did earn his GED. He went to Boston University to earn his bachelor's and earn his master's and PhD from Ohio University. He has had stints teaching in Connecticut, California, schools in Japan and Germany, the Ohio University Lab School. He's had faculty appointments at Towns State Teachers College in Maryland, the Ohio State University, before he came to Purdue, and he stayed at Purdue until he retired in 1997, earning the title of Professor Emeritus. He is a publisher. What I didn't know is that he's also published 4 children's books. So he's a presenter and a publisher. And for fun, he sings with the Cherry Lane Dudes. So if you ever, maybe we can get him to, he doesn't have the rest of the dudes, but who knows. He likes to work with pastels, and if you've ever been to the Co-Rec, you've probably seen him around there too. One of the things that that is said about him often from one of a favorite poem, write him as one who loves his fellow man, and fellows is used very generically. So if you two fellows would come on up, we have some presentations for you.
Serving as a fact fellow with these wonderful gentlemen has been a real honor. In fact, Dr. Nelson was one of my professors when I was seeking a master's degree in administration and supervision. We heard a lot of wonderful stories from him. And Dr. Gorman, which maybe Zenefia does not know, maybe she does, but he has a beautiful singing voice and sings with the Bach Chorale. Tonight. I was just going to say. They're singing Russian at St. Boniface Church, and Dr. Gorman has been with the Bach Chorale many years. How long, Bill, would you say? 20 years?
40. Yeah, when I came back in 74, I think.
40
I
years.
joined, yeah.
So you know the voice is still running. And of course, Dr. Nelson plays with the Cherry Lane Dudes all the time for the Senior Center, as well as many other festivities. So both of these gentlemen are multi-talented and just really wonderful people to be around. So I'm delighted as a state representative to present these folks with, we think, something very special. This is a seal of the state of Indiana because we think so much of them. They may have come from other places, but you are true Hoosiers now, aren't they? So, just a little story about these. They are made in, guess where? Indiana. In New Albany, Indiana. Former state rep Bill Cochran, maybe some of you know Bill from New Albany, Indiana. And Bill, son, works for Bruce Fox Agency, and they are the only ones that make these seals in the state of Indiana, and these are replicas of the ones that you see on the front of the lectern at the State House. And we thought that these two gentlemen deserve something very special, and not everybody can get a seal of the state of Indiana. So we're delighted to honor them, and along with that, we would like to present the Purdue University Amelia Earhart Hall for your 50th year anniversary. And Elizabeth, if you would like to come up and give this, you and Zenefia and folks who work at Earhart Hall, it's a wonderful place to be. And every time I see that statue coming in, Susan, I think of how important Amelia Earhart was to this district And they're still looking for that plane, as a matter of fact, aren't they? What's that?
We're going to find it.
I think we're going to find it. Actually, they can do that now. So if you would like to have this, Elizabeth, I want to wish Earhart Hall many happy years ahead, but 50 years is a long time, and we're just delighted that you're still moving and shaking. So thank you very much, and congratulations to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheila and Zanefia. And Dr. Gorman and Dr. Nelson, thank you for your many years of service. I would just like to take a moment to recognize, if you have been a faculty fellow or involved with the faculty fellow program, would you please stand? Any? Yeah, okay. And if you are or were an Earhart resident and your life, your time here was impacted by a faculty fellow, will you please stand? Thank you. I think that shows, not only them getting the award, the enduring success of that program. It really does make a difference. And it started not too many years after Earhart Hall opened. So thank you again, Dr. Gorman and Dr. Nelson. It was always fun doing things with you here at Earhart. I would like to invite Dr. Beth McCuskey to come forward and share about the history of Earhart Hall.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you to Dr. Gorman and Dr. Nelson. It's just so impactful, the work that you do on our lives of our students, and you make a difference every day. And today, it's just so fitting to honor you for the many years that you've served in your roles. Can I have another round of applause for these wonderful gentlemen? Thank you. And wow, what a glorious day. Spring has finally sprung, so we are enjoying it. Today I'm going to share a few remarks about Earhart Hall and its impact, and a little bit about the future as we might expect. The world has changed remarkably since Earhart Hall opened its doors to women in 1964, and has changed even more since Amelia Earhart joined our campus in 1934. Today we'll talk a little bit about what the world was like back then, and we're going to learn from people whose experiences reflect many of these generations. We will also imagine our world in the future. It is fitting that Purdue chose to name the second of its modern high-rise facilities after a woman who is undoubtedly Purdue's leading lady. Amelia Earhart resided in Dumey Hall between 1934 and 1936 and directly contributed to the education of Purdue students. While her time with us was all too brief, her impact upon Purdue women was significant and is still being felt today. Amelia inspired women to push beyond the norms, to dispute the stereotypes that offered narrow career paths for women, and even to challenge women's role as homemaker. Amelia once administered a questionnaire to female students during the 1934-1935 academic year, asking their opinions of work, how they were choosing their career, and whether they planned to continue working after marrying and having children. Amelia also asked the question, what do you think a married man's part in the running of a household should be? And the responses ranged from, he should not have anything to do with it, to, if the wife is employed, both husband and wife should take an equal part in the active running of the household. We sometimes hear the adage, the more things change, the more things stay the same. I know I've taken similar questionnaires in my day. Know these questions are still asked and answered in women's magazines, in TVs and movies, and between partners across the kitchen table. It has been 80 years since Amelia asked these questions of Purdue women, and while gender roles have evolved quite a bit, those questions still remain relevant. It was a mere 30 years after Amelia's time here that Earhart Hall opened its doors for women. From its inception, it served as an incubator for the success of Purdue students. While the facility became co-ed in 2003, Earhart continues to offer a community that nurtures women and serves as a home base for the Women in Engineering program, the Women in Engineering and Women in Science programs. The learning communities were expanded to include men as well with the Engineering Epics program as well as Honors Engineering. Amelia would be proud of the atmosphere that her namesake residence has developed, one that promotes opportunity for all students, male and female, from diverse backgrounds. In honor of our 50th anniversary, I asked alumni to share some of their memories of Earhart Hall's early years. The 60s was an era of change, and Purdue University was not immune. Male guests were first allowed to visit the floors in Earhart in the 1966 school year. That's the year I was born, by the way. Wow. Even then, visitation hours were only 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon, and students had to shout, "Man on the floor," when escorting a visitor. Curfews were also enforced in these early years, even to the point of counselors performing bed checks. Does anyone remember that? While curfews were relaxed in the 1965-66 school year, women returning late had to check in through the back door where they got to say goodbyes to their dates next to the dumpsters. Talk about romance. Now, we all know that smells are one of the biggest triggers of memories. And I wonder if we would catch our early Earhart residents breaking into smiles as they walk past dumpsters today. We didn't think we'd be talking about dumpsters today, did we? Another big change was women being allowed to wear slacks to class. This happened during the 1968-69 school year, but even then, slacks were not permissible in the memorial halls. One alumna shared, "We wore wool skirts that came about to our knees with knee socks. Our knees and upper legs would be red and painful when we walked to and from class." Can you imagine wearing skirts to class this past winter? Ouch. Alumni also spoke with fondness about the luxury of having telephones in their rooms. Up until that point, facilities only had house telephones that were shared by an entire floor or building. Dates would call up to the rooms here in Earhart from telephones located in the lobbies, leaving overwhelming traces of aftershave in the area. You could always tell it was Friday or Saturday night from the smell of the telephones. Coincidentally, it took 50 years, but this year we removed most telephones from Purdue residence halls. Students don't use them anymore. It was a savings of about $1 million.